Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name's Ed, and this is a daily cast with Ed and Friends. Thank you ever so much. I'm just going to type dreams into Slack General. Good evening, Grimheath Wine. Thanks for joining. No Dreams Alive at the moment. Spray Beers, good evening. Thanks for joining. Let me switch screens. How's everyone's Friday been? Oh, don't look at my Slack. You get to see who I talk to. Oh, good evening, Ilksworben in the chat. Ilksworben in the chat. Ilksworben on the screen. More on that later. I hope everyone's had a great Friday. If you're joining for the first time, thanks. It's lovely to have you here. If you're joining for the fifth time this week, thank you very much for being such a loyal supporter of the channel. It's lovely to have everyone here, and to see the amount of people that have been engaged in Spoiler Week generally, and then more specifically in, for me, this channel. It's been wonderful. So very kind. I'm just gonna stall for the next couple of minutes. I'm joined this evening, by the way, by someone who I think very few people in the community will know. Very new to the game. Very vocal in the Green Level Clearance Discord. And for me, one of the things that I've tried to do with a stream is get a range of voices. Because if I did 28 days of Ed Fortune in different guises in different places around the world, we will get onto one in a second. If we had 28 Ed Fortunes over the next 4 weeks, I think everyone would get quite bored. So I wanted to introduce you to some people that you might not know that are still very engaged with the game. So, that being said, I'd like to welcome Kalypso. Can I call you Kalypso? Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining me. Absolute pleasure. Kalypso, obviously, you're not necessarily... good evening, Jen, as well. No, pleasure, my friend. Can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, for those who don't know you? Oh, sorry, 1 second. Calypso, yeah, okay. Sorry, everyone in the chat. Let me just, I've got this problem again. I said to you it changed. What's going on here? Right, let's have a look here. We'll get there in a second. Headset, output device, headphones. Tell me, yeah, that should be better now. Right. Let's
Better
pretend
now.
that didn't happen, everyone. Technical issues, only for the 4th out of 5 time this week. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest this evening, who you might not all know. His name is Kalypso. Kalypso, good evening.
Good evening. Hey, Ed, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. It's so cool that you're having people of all different backgrounds and of all different experiences of Netrunner. I know I'm one of the newer ones. I got into Netrunner I would say if people ask me when did you get to Netrunner, I'd probably say November 20. So that's just a few months ago. So for me, that's like trying to get into the game, trying to understand the game, just really getting myself involved in like all of it. And as you know, I'm very active in the Green Level Clearance Discord, doing drafts, doing all kinds of different tournaments. So that's my level of involvement, trying to get to know all the cards. I know the card pool, if it were a literal pool,
Right, real talk, I'm going to jump
I'd
in
be
right now.
diving into.
I can't hear you at the moment.
Sure.
I'm pretending that I can hear you, but I can't. Just give me 1 second. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Why? And if I do that, I can hear you, can't I? Yes. And then that is not matching up with... You can hear both now. Shout at me. Shout. Yeah. That's so weird, honestly. Do you know, I think a lot of the problem is more audio problems, great. Yeah, I know you both can hear me, but I can't hear Calypso. Just give me 5 seconds. I do apologise, everyone. So right. So yeah, Calypso is talking right now, everyone. I'm using Twitch Studios, which is a terrible idea. I've been told by everyone it's a terrible idea, but I'm so. Can you talk again, Calypso?
Yes, mic test one, two,
Yes,
three. I am talking. Ed,
we got
you
there.
got me on or what?
Yeah, Twitch Studio just bugs out sometimes, and I have to close
Nice.
everything and restart it. It's an awful piece of software, but it's really, really easy to use. Everyone, can you just confirm you can hear Calypso? Let's go.
One,
Let's
two, three.
go.
Mic test. Hey,
Yeah.
everyone, can you hear me?
It was the same settings as last night. Good evening, Sengrin, Jeff. Good evening, Ben. Good evening, Rolex Rage. Good evening, Rolex Rage. New to the stream. Thanks for joining. Good evening, Man vs. Uppity. Good evening, Captain Nice, Monday's guest. Good evening, Ian Algebraic. Thanks for the dig. Always appreciate a dig. And yeah. So, you've been playing since November. Is that right?
I've been playing since November, yeah, and I've been trying to get involved and get to know the card pool since then.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the card pool, if it were a literal pool, I would just jump into the deep end. As you know, for those of you who know me from the Green Level Clearance Discord, I'm doing like three different tournaments each week. There's like the Ret Runner, the modded. I'm involved in the draft right now, so I'm just trying to get to know the game in all kinds of approaches.
Yeah. I like to think of you. I don't know if anyone else. Yeah, you might have mentioned you're really excited about Netrunner once or twice from Captain Nice. I like to think of you as Ash Ketchum, Calypso. You're like, I want to be the very best. Yeah, that's like,
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Except more like just I don't know that I'll be the very best. I'm trying to galaxy brain all the different like card combos, and I lean in a little too hard on like one upgrade, and my entire card in a deck is just like, let's do that one upgrade,
yeah,
and it doesn't work.
For sure. You'll get there. I mean, I'm not there, but hello, Jakuza, joining from the Netherlands. Jakuza, one of the creators of the finest alt arts you'll ever see. Right, so let's get on to today's news. How excited were you, before we talk about the card itself, hearing about Jinteki today?
Hearing about Jinteki Day in general was just an exciting day. As you know, I love doing all kinds of mind games, traps here and trap there. I think one of the appeals for me when I first played the revised core, because that's the one that I got, was kind of just reading through Snare, and I'm just like, this thing is a card, and from that point forward, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. This is how we're gonna play.
Yeah, for sure. Sure, that's fun. And so, let's get onto the card. So, first of all, articles today written by Xvorban. Shout out to Xvorban, who's been on the stream, I think, every single day. Excited about today. I think he turned off all social media for fear that this card was going to get slated today. And I think we'll talk about people's interpretation of this card and the curve a bit later on. So remind me. Hi, James. So here's the card. Jinteki, Restoring Humanity. 4015, Identity Megacorp. When your discard phase ends, if there is a face-down card in Archives, gain 1. Flavor text. An end to suffering. Right, initial thoughts. You looked at the card. What did you think?
I thought, well, I think a lot of people thought this as well, this is a nice refreshing art. And actually in the Discord today and on Reddit, a lot of people were just commenting on the art itself, not even just what the card ability was. So that's really nice. The art is something to admire, but the ability is, I think, something fresh in different regards, especially for a new player. I think it's nice and clear. There's no like ambiguity in the ability.
Yeah, for sure. for sure. It is worth noting, actually, although there's no ambiguity. There is an ambiguity in the sense that when your discard phase ends, it's not end of turn. I haven't personally thought of any examples, like edge case examples, where discard phase and end of turn are different. But it's possible that in the future there's a design space thing there where it could be after the discard phase, do something. So it's an interesting little area that's been left open. And Jakuza in the chat's making the point that I think I'll make. The discussion about this card's been interesting. It's been all over the place in terms of evaluating power level. Right, before we go dig deep, there's nothing better than a score out of 10. Kalypso, what would you score this? How would you rate this ID out of 10?
Out of 10?
Power level.
I think that depends. Power level. I think that depends if we're talking about it in the card pool or the format of, say, the gateway, or if we're talking about it if we're throwing it in straight into the standard.
Let's do both. Pork and the toss.
Let's do both.
Yeah.
I think that so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because I've not been exposed to the card pool of the entire standard card pool, but I think in gateway, knowing what we know of some of the IDs, I would say I would rate this around like a 6, maybe a 7. In terms of it's gonna fire when it's there. It's a passive ability, I think, that you can rely on, but at the same time, it takes a lot of time to like set up, especially if you're gonna try and lean in on that. The 40-15 is a nice number. I think it'll teach a lot of new players the importance of drawing the good cards early.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very fair point.
I don't know what I would grade it in terms of the standard card pool. Like it's not RP. It's not Jinteki RP. I'm not gonna be punishing runners left and right. You know, no. I think I would drop it down to maybe a 4.
Okay, that's interesting. Shout out in the chat to Zeroth Maxima. Thanks for joining, mate. And shout out to Zeropa. Again, I think new in the chat. Lovely to see you there. I just a couple of people have shouted how great the article is, but also how good the accompanying fiction is. And if you're not looking at the stories that go with these cards, the amount of work clearly that's gone into the fiction and developing a world and lore for quite clearly we're on the moon. Sorry, it's probably my audio is apparently quite low. Kalypso, can you just talk a second?
Yeah, so
you're there.
I'm
That's
here.
Good.
Thank you for having me. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think I just need to shout a little bit louder. Yeah, so it's not just about the cards, it is about the lore and the world that we build around the cards.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people are interested in. And I think Interest has done a fantastic job with the story to date. I like that it goes through and it leaves you hanging at the end with this, who's this human for client. It's just very cool. It's a really cool story. Check it out if you haven't already. And something that I haven't mentioned before, but if you are a Patreon subscriber, well worth jumping in if you're not, for just a minimum donation of £2 a month, supporting the game that you love. You get alternative additional stories, and you get newsletters, and you get all sorts of different perks. And I know it's something that I think in the future Nisei are looking at expanding as well. Plus, you're just supporting the game, guys. So, guys and girls, and men and women, and everyone else.
That's actually super cool.
Yeah, people.
And I think, Ed, if I want to jump in there with this story, without spoiling the story, the fiction that came in with the Jinteki ID today, sure. I think I read it, and I think it gave a little bit more context to the Jinteki Restoring Humanity ID. Yeah. We're talking about Jinteki, a corporation, a megacorp that was all about like the organic stuff and, you know, trying to make use of all the cool things that you have. And so digging into archives where we might think where archives is just like, oh, that's just the discard pile, and making use of that. I mean, it works with restoring humanity.
It does, like thematically, it's excellent. I agree. I
Indeed.
agree. You're recreating Earth on the moon, aren't you? And in that sense, it's all about archives. It's fantastic. So let's have a look through this article then, while my cursor wanders over the screen. Everyone, I hope you're all well. Thanks ever so much for joining. So, ideas. What do you think you'll see this deck as? Do you think this is going to be a trap deck, which Shintek is famous for? Is it going to be a glacier deck, which Shintek is famous for? Are you going to be installing sideways? I mean, where do you want to build this? I know you've been looking at a few options today.
Right. Today,
Shout
I think
out in the chat
that I'd
first.
be going.
Shout out in the chat to June Cuervo. June Cuervo, good evening. June Cuervo is head of, June makes all the cards basically. So, absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Honored to be joined by June. Yeah. No,
Thank you for joining us.
And the guest this evening, White Blade, Australia's #1 champion, White Blade, and Koga, good evening as well. The guest is Kalypso. As Gene said, a lot of designers work together to make the cards. Just Gene is the lead designer. Yes. Hi, Eric. Wave. Sorry, Kalypso, I cut you off. Please, Dex, let's go.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, we are being joined by people from all over the world who have such presence in the community. That's so cool. That's so exciting. I feel like I'm just jumping into like a stadium full of super cool people. For me, if I were to build something with this ID, the Restoring Humanity ID, I'd be looking into getting some plays out of Kakurenbo. As usual, you have your things like snare and your trap cards from the Jinteki ID, and you can have a couple of support from like Ice. Like Drafter is a really cool support that allows you to pull things from the archives.
Yeah,
that's what I have in mind. Yeah,
I think Drafts is a great choice. And the idea of manipulating what's in archives, and I think it's an ability that can just tick over, right? It's an ability that maybe 3 out of 4 turns you're going to get credit for, and actually that's not worth. That's not something that's credit 3 out of 4 turns. I can't think of the word. Chat, can you help me? It's not something to be ignored. It's a few credits through the game. ETF, classically very useful. Do you lean in, I wonder, and I think this may be a question for the chat. I don't know what everyone's sort of initial assessments are. Do you lean into the ability, or do you just let it tick along? Because essentially in Polana, when you're playing Polana Foods, you don't lean into the ability, and you just have that in the background, knowing that you're going to be gaining a little bit of money through the game consistently.
That's funny, Ed, that you asked that, actually. As a beginner player, I leaned into the ability, and I went on Netrunner DB, and I just started looking up all these, like, what support am I going to have from archives? Like, if I have a face down card in archives, a runner's going to run that. What do I need to have in archives to support me? And I know in the article they mentioned Cyberdeck Sandbox for things like tempo positive agendas. But if you support it with something like Cyberdeck's Virus Suite, I believe. Yeah. And that thing fires in the archives, and you have someone like Kit with Pilangi driving into archives. You're wiping viruses, and if you have a scored Cyberdeck Sandbox, you're making money off of that too. So I was like thinking about how you can kind of combo those things in there, but you can't score out of archives, so that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, I know. It is worth noting that as much as credit from doing stuff in archives, is useful. It doesn't progress your board state. So I think that's why there's been so many mixed takes today. Mr. Cowboy Sanjay, thanks for joining. Z-Bag, thanks for joining. I think there's been a lot of mixed takes on this. Vale, thanks for joining if I didn't say that already. Good evening. I think there's two sides to it. On one hand, it is a boring ability. There's no two ways about it, right? You're gaining a credit.
Right.
It's not the most exciting thing that's ever happened. But I think... So, my take is exactly what Yakuza's just put in the chat here. I think a 4015 ID in Jinteki is more powerful than it is anywhere else. You've got two of the best 5.3 agendas in Overcast Protocol and Bacterial Programming. That's without thinking about running Global Food Initiative, which, you know what, is a real possibility as well. You stick in Punitive Counter-Strike. That's very feasible in this deck. Less cards equals higher snare density, as Grimm's just said in the chat as well. And I think there's really something there, where actually all you do is you build a solid kill deck. I wonder if you import hard-hitting news. I wonder if you import news team, which, you know, works well with the archives punishment, or the archives credit economy. You stick some news teams in the archives, you double tag, they go, you're Jinteki, you're never going to be on high profile target, and all of a sudden, or boom, even. A reason in the chat saying you also have offer you can't refuse. You also have Gene Sponsor.
You also have Space Camp.
You also have Space Camp. Hasty Relocation is a card I want to talk about, right? And I think, I believe it's talked about in the article. Options such as Hasty Relocation. So my thoughts are, what you can do with this deck is you play Hasty Relocation, you play Ginger City Grid, you play 5/3s, and you build a wall. And I think that works really well.
Wow.
Yeah? So,
yeah,
I think there's actually, the fact that the ID is boring, quote unquote, because it does very little interesting or innovative, actually, in the space that it's in, is super interesting. Because it's Jinteki,
yeah,
it's 40 card ID. The thing is, we've had 40 card IDs in Jinteki before, or we've had a 40 card ID in Jinteki before, Harmony Medtech, but that was a 4012, and we got a 4015, and 3 influence is nothing to be frowned at, nothing to be sniffed at all. I think it is hugely relevant. And I need to shrink this screen so I can go back to the card page. And we're going to do that now. And we're there now. Thanks for sticking with me, everyone. Lovely to see everyone joining as well. And then in the article, just moving on from that, talks about playing like Cyberdeck Sandbox. And I think you hinted on this as well. The other option of kind of doing that Virus Hate / Economy Engine, where you're going to drop cards face down in archives. You know, they know you've got Cyberdeck's Virus Suite there. You've scored out a Cyberdeck Sandbox, maybe with a Biovault or two to stop them. And all of a sudden, you've got your Economy Engine set up. I think there's a huge amount of options here, personally. I
think there's a lot of options there too. As you're talking about these cards, Ed, I'm thinking about whether it's worth it for me as a runner to even jump into archives and then deal with it, because the ability fires when the phase ends.
Yeah.
For the discard for the corporation, which means like if I go in there, I turn over the cards on their turn, they can still reap the benefits anyway. So like, am I wasting a click? Am I wasting my resources just to peek in there? Because me accessing the archives and looking at those cards won't really stop them on this
No,
turn anyway.
no, no, no. I think you're absolutely right. And there's a real fork for the runner, and all of a sudden, it's not two centrals that are important; it's three centrals that are important. And yeah, I think the other thing I'd like to talk about in this article, we do get a few new cards mentioned, I believe.
Yes.
I want some hot takes. What do you think these cards could be? Please, Kalypso. Right, I'm going to go through them in order. First up, Amniotic Void.
Amniotic Void. To throw the runner into the abyss. What is it's like?
To throw the runner into the abyss.
Like a deflector kind of ice. I don't like make you bounce somewhere else.
Who knows? Don't know. Sounds powerful.
Don't know.
It uses the word powerful, so it must be powerful.
Yeah.
A reason in the chat, I'm slightly worried that this ends up just playing 90% the same decks as Polana, though, with the high density of the good ice and a few flex slots going to genotyping and other new cards that get the face down archives. Jinteki Glacier already feels relatively one note, with Ag Infusion and Polana decks being very similar. That's an interesting point. And Spray Biz has actually kind of taken away what I was going to say here. The challenge is discarding cards to make it work with a 44 card deck. It's interesting that as the deck gets smaller, your cards get more valuable, but as the deck gets smaller, you find the bits that you need to faster. And I think it's just actually, rightly or wrongly, I think it's going to be quite powerful. One thing to note from June, they say, one thing to think about is Polana is not terribly long for this world. It's nice to have a baseline economy ID that better represents the faction's themes. And yeah, we're next rotation, Polana, if it doesn't go into the next update, Polana's gone. And having an ID that ticks over, I don't know, I think the initial hot takes were, this is boring, this is fine, this is like 4 out of 10. And I think as people start to build decks with it and mentally build decks and ask the questions like I am at the moment, what is Hansai review? The more sedate Hansai review for economic value. What could it be?
That is interesting. I mean, you already have Sundew. I mean, Sundew. I don't know.
Interesting. Like, it feels like there is support in the box for this ID, and it's difficult. And I am glad, and I had this conversation today. I'm glad that 4 out of 10 in the chat. Chat is going to be proved wrong. I had this conversation today where I think there is going to be support in the box, and I think the support will bring it from a 4 out of 10 score to a 6 or 7 score now. But then slowly over time, as people realise, much the same as what happened with Asmari, by the way. Asmari did exactly the same thing. Everyone at the start said, hey, yeah, it's pretty good, but employee strikes a card, and this is bad because then your ID's turned off. And I've got a real feeling for this one. Honestly, I think it's going to be a dominant ID. I'm going to rate this. Currently, I'm going to rate this 6.5 out of 10.
Wow.
But I feel it's more likely that my score will go up in the future rather than down in the future. That'd be my take.
I think I agree with you. I mean, we don't have the entire card pool. We don't have the entire sets of new cards that we know that's going to support this. I'm reading the article again with you as you're reading it, and it said after it introduces those cards that we don't know what they are, said all of these cards, one way or another, draw, discard, or recycle. I think I mean, I don't know if that's a hint or not, whether, what these cards will do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
get those cards back into the R&D as you're trashing them into archives.
yeah, absolutely. And just one more, interestingly, uh, Ilks has decided to note you might well see players using Uprising's Kakarembo. I think that's pretty obviously clear. Or importing NBN's new Spin Doctor. Have you got any predictions on what Spin Doctor might be? Ed said, trying to keep a straight face.
Spin Doctor.
Yeah.
My goodness. That I have no idea. When I think of NBN, I think tags, but I don't know how this would fit in tag wise um with this Jinteki Restoring Humanity ID. So I have no idea what Spin Doctor might do. I know a lot of the other cards in um the Ashes and the current system core have been like advertisements and gold farmer and a lot of money for NBN, but I don't. Maybe it is money
Maybe,
for the ID.
maybe it's just money. And El Sorbon's very irritatingly written the line as you might well see players importing NBN's new Spin Doctor. Says absolutely nothing about what the card does other than I think we would agree it will see play in this ID for sure. Very, very interesting. What's been? I presume this is your first spoiler season, isn't it?
Right.
Kalypso. Yeah, it's first spoiler season for any card game, or have you been involved in other card games with spoiler seasons?
For any card game, this is I'm all in Netrunner. I don't. A lot of other games that I play are not as competitive or not as interesting as Netrunner. So I'm all in on this first spoiler season. It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Have you had any sort of like favorite moments so far? Favorite cards?
Favorite moment
seen,
is
or?
no favorite cards just yet. Favorite moment is every morning when I wait after my breakfast to check the new updates so that I can get excited for the new cards. It's just kind of like getting the ball, like getting the gears rolling. Like, what do I do with this card? What do I do with that card? It's really cool.
Yeah, because I suppose like scoops drop for you at 7 a.m., don't they?
Yes, they do.
Oh man!
So that's right. And I
Like,
have the whole day to think about it.
like 7 a.m. is probably my like window. If that was like my time, that's my window where I wake up when the cats need feeding, and then I like scroll through my phone for half an hour and I go out to sleep for another couple of hours. And it's a nice time of day actually to. I don't think I sleep very well if scoops dropped every day at 7 a.m. for me, but there we go. Analyze Chris, thanks for joining this evening. Scoops Week, the ultimate LCG endorphin rush. Absolutely, like I get so hyped. I don't know about you, but I get very hyped half an hour beforehand, and you see the chat going and all the different in the Green Level Clearance Discord. I'm gonna do my bit. If you wanna, I'll talk about that in a second. I do my bit every day where I say, everyone, if you haven't joined the Green Level Clearance Discord before, what are you doing with your lives? You need to come and join us in the Green Level Clearance Discord. Channels are growing by the minute. We're trying to do a few things behind the scenes which make it a little bit more turn on, turn off. So you don't have 1,000 channels that you have to scroll through if you're not interested. Come and join us. Links in directions that side of my Twitch. If you don't like using Discord or you want to expand your horizons, why not join StimHack Slack? StimHack Slack is, thanks ever so much, Chris, for posting the link there as well. StimHack Slack is kind of more for the, I suppose not for, but it's where the older members of the community go. Older as in being in more established. So for example, I'm in a food group there. I'm in a Formula One group. I'm in, as Algebraic said in the chat, I'm in a cricket group called Ball on Willow. Ball on Willow? Ball on Willow? Yeah, I believe it's called Ball on Willow. And I hear Nisei sponsored pants to play the scoop shot against Anderson this morning. It was a fantastic shot. I woke up just as an LBW decision was turned down, and that will make no sense to, I would say, 80% of people that are watching it on this evening. But it was a sad moment, so I fell asleep again anyway. But yeah, tons of variety to get involved in the community. A couple of community things I wanted to talk about before we kind of wrap things up this evening, Kalypso. First of all, I got something lovely. I got something rather lovely through the post yesterday, in fact. If you haven't seen this cool meme before, this is Haley Kaplan lo-fi study beats. It's from D Prieto on Twitter, David Prieto de Burgos at gmail.com. Please send me, I'm just going to stick this up here. If you want to buy stuff like this, let me know. We've got Yakuza in the chat as well. Yakuza also does these kind of like wooden IDs and stuff like this. Support people that make such amazing art as this. Have you seen it, Kalypso? Did you get a chance to have a look? I don't know if you're watching the stream.
I have, and I've been so interested in, because I listen to that playlist all the time, the lo-fi hip hop and the lo-fi beats all the time.
Oh, do you?
So this that entire, it's so good.
It's cool, isn't it? And what's nice, if you haven't seen it before, these laser arts, and I will say again, Yakuza also makes them. So, you know, my next one's coming from you, but I want one of those real official ones. There's a load of Netrunner references in here as well. You find the store on Etsy, but if you are looking for it and you can't find it, please DM me and I'll point you in the right direction. But it's absolutely sick. The next
Ed.
one I'm going to do... Hello?
Hey Ed, before we wrap up, I wanted to just say something.
Cool, yeah. We weren't wrapped up yet, but no, please carry on, mate.
Oh, we weren't wrapped up. All right. I just wanted to make sure. One, because I know that a lot of people are, as a beginner myself, I know a lot of people are playing, coming back to Netrunner with the new system update and system gateway. Whatever community you're going into, like the community has been so supportive in teaching people how to play, teaching the rules, and taking the time to help each other, either on jinteki.net or just kind of like NetDeck, or like build your decks, or just kind of troubleshoot your decks with you. First of all, thank you to all those people that have been such a good support, not just to me, but all to everyone who's been wanting to learn, wanting to get into the game. And for those of you that are thinking like, is this the game for me? Try out a couple of games, and if you like it, you'll fall in love with it. If you don't like it, you tried it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I fully agree with you. There's no better way of saying it. Jump in the game, and it's nice to see other streamers recently have been streaming a lot of Netrunner, and I don't know if it's in anticipation of community season, perhaps, and they're going to be doing some bits, or whether they just heard about the game. I think Nisei are doing a great job at the moment, jumping in interviews and jumping in like a variety of different conversations with people outside the community and bring people in. We see that certainly in Green Level Clearance Discord, but I'm sure everyone's seeing it around the board. The excitement about Netrunner is pretty huge. I was looking for a tournament and I can't find it. Savage Memories Store Champ for Fanboy 3. Quark Butter. I just want to have a little chat about Quark Butter for a second, and I will talk about this a little bit more next week. Quark Butter runs charity tournaments in the UK. I got an alt-art through today. I came 11th, I think, out of 28 people in that tournament, and I got a sick Adam alt-art for no reason other than the goodness of his heart. He decided to to send everyone prizes. Quark Butter's running a tournament next weekend, I believe. I was looking for the tournament, but I'm really bad at using Always Be Running. Jump in. I think it's next weekend. It might be the weekend after. Calendar is going to tell me. I think it's the weekend after. I do have a very special tournament organiser, Nisei, guest next week, who will probably be able to tell you a little bit more about it. I believe she's looking at streaming the tournament as well. So it will be a bit of a farewell to Savage Memories. Thanks for joining, James. Thanks. Look forward to speaking to you next week. It'll be like a farewell to Savage Memories. I think it's at a reasonable time worldwide, more or less. And Manvarupti, since you've got ABR up on screen, could you please plug claiming with your decks? I think that's a good thing to claim. I always claim with my decks when I've logged into NRDB. Yeah, do you know what? Actually, that is worth claiming. Have you played a tournament before, Kalypso, that's been run by Cobra?
By Cobra. I don't know that I've played any tournaments that are official. I played some of the tournaments on GLC. I played the standard tournament, the miscellaneous tournament. I played the weekly just modded quote unquote tournament, right? And a couple of drafts here and there. And I know that Ret Runner is happening right now. We are currently in running the original core and half of the Genesis cycle packs in there, and then we're gonna add more packs as we go along.
Yeah. Big shout out actually to Ret Runner's tournament. If you're interested in playing the game right from the start, if you miss cards of yesteryear and you want to jump in from the core experience, we've just moved on to the first data pack. I think the first 3 data packs coming to an end. So I think the next 3 data packs are about to be added, aren't they, Kalypso?
I believe so. I think we are on either the last round this week or the last round next week, and then I believe we take a week off, and then we'll add the next set. I think Jackson Howard, shout out to that card, coming up soon.
I've heard it's a good card. What's your take? Have you ever played with Jackson Howard?
Actually, the only time I played with Jackson Howard was with the draft that I recently was with, just 6 or 8 of people of us, and that is a cool card. The draw, put it in there, and then just as they either access archives, just throw that back in there into R&D. That is a cool card.
Would you describe Jackson Howard as a crutch?
You know what? I think as I get to know how to use it, I think so. I think it's a little like, what do you do as a runner knowing that it's a rezzed up Jackson Howard? You run it because then they're just gonna toss it like NGO front anyway, and then shuffle everything. And there's something there that's unbalanced for the runner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jackson Howard is a very powerful card. I think it was something like 95% in decks. I think it was maybe at one point in more decks than Hedge Fund was in decks. You basically, as a corporation that wasn't MBN, you started with 3 less influence because you always played 3 Jackson Howards. Simply the Onion, good evening. Thanks for joining. I haven't looked at Netrunner for a couple of months. Wasn't there supposed to be a rotation coming up soon? It's like you're my PR man. Some might say spin doctor. Simply the Onion.
Oh.
This is the Scoop stream. We are currently looking at new cards. Let me show you a new card. Thanks for coming back to the game as well. Here's today's ID. If you look at that art, it's just absolutely stunning. We've been talking about this all evening. I'm here streaming every night through March for my sins. I thought it was a good idea. It's turned out it's a great idea. and we're looking at what scoops have come out every day. And I'm joined by a guest from the community, and you're going to hear a variety of different voices through the month, which I hope appeals to everyone as much as it's appealed to me. My last shout out for this evening, welcome, Simply the Onion. Thanks for joining. And I'm going to do that thing. Do you know what? If you subscribe to, if you follow the channel down below, that means you get pinged when I go live, in case I'm a minute early or a minute late, or heaven forbid you forgot to tune in to me. You wouldn't forget to tune in to me, would you, Kalypso?
Oh, I have you on a bookmark on my tabs here.
You're an absolute star. Simply the Onion, is there an easy way to find out what's going to be rotating out? Maybe someone in the chat could help you there. It's probably easier to type a link of some sort. But I would probably say, everyone started following me. All my friends that I thought followed me already. You horrible people. If someone could type a link in the chat to the GLC Discord or something like that, that would be a great place where you can ask that sort of questions. Last thing before I go, something I bought today, and maybe that's why I've messed up my audio, but I'm sure this will appeal to quite a few people actually. Netrunner Tunes, Stevie Mac 2000, over on the Reddit of Netrunner, a place I tend not to go, but I've been going more recently just to try and get a few people a little bit more hyped about Scoop season, if that was possible. Netrunner Tunes will always be running 1 and 2, 75% off this weekend. If you're a fan of kind of like ambient electronica, it's described as instrumental electronica. I kind of find it like an ambient background sound. It's the sort of thing I listen to. Anyway, I'm a big fan of house music and electro and tech house. And I bought these finally. And I've been listening to them all day, and they're absolutely great. Just a few comments in the chat here. Someone called Cookhead, no idea who that is, says Bort should be hearing you on stream tonight. Apparently Cookhead's not very good at technology and wasn't unable to play it on stream tonight, but he will sort that out for tomorrow. Bloomy says, I bought the first album a few months back and it's great music to play while you run the nets. And Manatee Studies, nice you picked it up, missed it last time, thanks a ton. This weekend, 75% off tunes, and the track listing is all Netrunner cards, and the songs are all inspired by Netrunner. Absolutely brilliant to jump in and take this, and you're supporting a creator in the community as well. So shout out to Stevie Mac 2000 from Northern Ireland, I believe. Kalypso, is there anything else that you would like to talk about this evening before we wrap up?
Maybe just one more thing. I'm excited to run as Tao Salonga and swap those ice. That's about it. That's it. That's all.
Everyone's excited about Tao. I think everyone had a sleep yesterday. They went to bed. Shout out to the Australians who probably had 2 sleeps. I don't know how it works over there or down there. But shout out if you've had 3 sleeps. I'm not quite sure how it works. And woke up this morning, or this afternoon, if you're in Australia again, you wake up in the evening, and realised how exciting Tao was. I think Tao's fantastic.
Yep.
Analyze Chris.
Other than that, I mean...
Analyze Chris in the chat, an infamous shaper player, dangerous shaper player, saying he's dreaming about swapping ice. Tao. That is a great shout out, actually. Sorry, I'm going to end up just going on for 15 minutes at the end every night. Spray Bizzle, aka Noob Runner, who was on the stream last night. If you missed it, by the way, all my videos are saved on the channel. Do check them all out. I think I've had some great guests so far, friends of mine. Every single person on here is a friend of mine. And Spray Bizzle, who was on last night, sent me a piece of art, which is a great segue. I'm running a competition. I am looking for art of some description, way, shape, form, type, style. So I suggested things like a song, a poem, a story, a piece of art, a drawing, Ocarina was shouted, and Ocarina Tune was shouted. I've had 2 entries overnight already, which I thought I would be waiting a couple of weeks before I started getting entries. So thank you ever so much. And I don't want to reveal too much about the entries, but let's just say one of them was a Rubik's Cube.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Check out Spray Bizzle's channel, Noob Runner, over on YouTube. Has some great interviews with some minds of the community. The channel subtitle is getting better, learning to get better at Netrunner step by step, or something like that. If you haven't seen the video, Spray Biz, feel free to drop the link in the chat here. I honestly, I can't describe the smile on my face when I watched it. The hype levels were massive. Well worth a look. It's also posted over in there. There it is there. I thoroughly recommend everyone watching. My viewers are going to drop down. Anything else you'd like to say? I'm running a competition. Prizes, you all know about it anyway. Anything else you'd like to say, Kalypso, before everyone goes and watches Rubik's Cubes?
No, I'm actually watching it right now. So
I'm sure you are.
Nothing else to say.
On that note, I'm going to go and eat some food and grab myself a glass of wine as per usual. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me here, Ed.
No. Always a pleasure. Oh, and tomorrow I've got a very, very special guest. It's my boss. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.